Hello? Okay. I think movement, it should be fine. And we are recording. Okay. And
I've never seen one of these before.
Dude, it's the most useful thing. Maddie bought it in America for like stupid cheap, but it's like it sounds fucking good.
Ah, sick.
Which is ridiculous. Okay. Obligatory clap. Sync up audio. Thank you.
Basically missed my own hands.
Right, so get in it podcast number 1. It's bloody wing it. How do you feel to be at 44 Stanley on his space?
I'm pretty chuffed. It's a really cool space.
I should probably introduce us. This is Patrick Birk. He works for Pins and Knuckles. I am from In.It Apparel. And we're trying something that's never happened before. And so here we go. Yeah. Dude, how did you originally get into Pins and Knuckles in the merchandising game?
I think I saw the name a bunch of times. It always popped up on social media. I think I followed it at some point. And then one day I saw an advert saying, they're looking for somebody. So I just thought, okay, I'm going to take this chance because I love merch. I love bands. I love what they've been doing for the past 10 years. I'm going to take a shot and see if I can land this thing.
Also just actually being able to make some money in the music industry.
Yeah, no, it's a real blessing to actually be able to be a part of the music scene and to be able to grow music worldwide.
Dude, so you've been in the bloody scene for yonkers now.
Thanks.
What was sort of the first thing that drew you into music in the first place?
It's got to be my dad. So he basically, he took me from being this little kid that was only into techno. He made me sit down one day.
Wait, what techno did you listen to?
To Unlimited, mainly.
Okay.
Okay, no, yeah.
This is a very
I'm
big
revealing
surprise.
my age. But yeah, so he just said to me one day, listen, just sit down. He put me on the couch. He put on Guns N' Roses, Paradise City.
Oh yeah.
And I was sitting there oh man, this really sucks. Why is this happening? And then he's like, just wait for it, because it builds up and builds up, and then all of a sudden it kicks in, and then this guy, dude, he's like 6'4", 120 kilograms. He just starts headbanging in front of me. I was like, what the hell is this? And then just after that, I was like, okay, this was a really weird experience, but I really got drawn to the passion of this guy, trying to show me this thing, showing me how to rock out. And then eventually I was like, okay, cool. I think rock music could be pretty interesting. Let me check it out.
Actually, I like a similar vibe because my brother was the metal one. He's 6 years older than me. And somehow my sister accidentally bought him some rock and roll CD. I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty lame. And then from there, he sort of spiraled into getting, he somehow went from Eminem to, listening to Metallica and Guns N' Roses and things. But when I was young, I'd be 8 years old and he'd put headphones, we'd be on holiday somewhere and he'd see I was, really depressed in a corner. And he'd pop headphones on me with, System of a Down playing. And then you can, slightly hear it and he'd, mimic the words along and, freak out in front of me. And I think that was such a big part of what actually got me into it, was just seeing someone else, just full-on embrace it.
Yeah.
Which is great, dude. Yeah, so Guns N' Roses, and then from there?
So my dad's favorite band was Metallica.
Fair enough.
And Justice for All was his favorite album. Because there's that song, One, right? So, that's obviously about Vietnam. And so my dad was in the border wars with Angola. So I think he really felt something. He was really moved by that. And then one day I just decided, okay, I'm going to have a listen to this myself. And I was really, really captivated by it. And then from there, everything just spiraled, and next thing I was into Slayer, and anything very, very heavy, even Obituary and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was the next step. I wasn't really into Guns N' Roses, to be honest, but from there, Metallica, Slayer, let's go.
Yeah, I think everyone who gets into the heavy side of things is you get your entry point, and then you just want more. You just want heavier the whole time, and he's looking for
exactly.
Chasing that dragon.
Yeah, and my dad would boast about it to his friends. His friends would be like, Ed, so you're into really heavy music, but what's Pat into? And he's like, oh, it's super heavy stuff, dude. You don't even know the stuff he's into. And then he would just start listing all these bands, and people would be like, okay, this kid's weird. But I'd be like, yeah, I got super support from my dad. Like he always had so much respect for me wanting to become a musician. Because I think that was something he wanted to do at one point, but he never really had the chance.
Yeah, that's such a rare thing. It's something to be so grateful for. Like my mom filled that role. Still is, like she always has been the only one who's like, just don't stop doing your music. Like I know you'll figure life out. Just do the music. Just keep the music there. Because it's like everyone in our family is musically talented. I think not all of us sort of were inclined that way. But my mom is insanely talented. She was like she had grade 8 in piano and violin and grade 6 in guitar as well or something.
Whoa.
But then it was a different time, so she just got sort of pushed into you need to make a career or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then became a doctor, and like just took over the whole life. So I think she's trying to avoid that happening with us and like trying to make space to actually pursue the music, which is like ridiculous when you actually think about it.
Did she ever teach you anything?
A little bit, yeah. I remember when I got my first sort of acoustic guitar, she would tune it for me, which was a big thing. But the only thing she could remember how to play was Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's a classic. But yeah, so when did you actually pick up a guitar?
When I was 16. So basically, all my friends around me were getting like Squires, Squire electric guitars.
Wait, was this all in Joburg?
Yeah, still in Joburg. So I was like, cool, I'm also gonna get one. So I begged my parents, like, come on, let me get an electric guitar. And then when my birthday came around, my 16th birthday, they're like, go look on your bed. Right? So I'm like, sweet. So I go in, and there's a guitar case, and I open it up, and it's an acoustic guitar. Shit! No, this is not what I wanted. No, it was just some no-name brand nylon string.
Most people's first guitar.
Yeah, and my dad's like, before you get onto the electric, you're gonna have to get good at the acoustic. I was like, that's not the plan.
It's also not true. It's so much easier to learn on an electric.
Yeah, I way preferred that. Like, as soon as I got onto the electric, I was like, yes, this is it.
I don't know why there's that thing about like you have to start on the hardest possible way in order to do it properly. Like, no, it's not necessary. Anyone out there trying to learn guitar, you can start on an electric. Don't listen to your parents.
Yeah, but I made them pay for it though. So I basically downloaded a whole bunch of Slayer tabs. And then sat in the lounge while they were watching TV with my acoustic, and I was like practicing like Slayer licks, and so they were pretty pissed off with me. But I had to show them, like I'm serious about this thing.
You gotta prove it. And then, so 16, get your first acoustic. What happened between then and was Conqueror the first band?
No, the first band was a hardcore punk band called Be Raucous.
Okay. That's a great name.
Yeah, we started that in high school. It was pretty much influenced by like early AFI and like also like anti-flag kind of vibes.
And around what time period is this?
We're talking 1999. Yeah, pretty early days. And then we had our first gig in 2000. It was in somebody's lounge, and there were all these BMX kids there. And they just trashed the place. Like, they completely destroyed the lights. The chimney even got damaged.
What? How do you damage a chimney?
No, well, I don't know. People were just jumping off it and like sort of stage diving from anything that had a platform. It was pretty cool. Yes, and then we only had one gig after that. It was at a Battle of the Bands at some college. And you should have seen how many disapproving faces we were facing there. People were just like, fuck this.
Not having it at all.
Yeah, but then, so I left that band at the end of 2000. They went on to become Gross Misconduct, and they did really well. They were one of the best bands in the scene at the time.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that was the first band. It was a great start. And then I think we went into something called The Critizens, which is basically like a Bad Religion mixed with Guttermouth kind of vibe.
That's an interesting mix.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. And then, then from there, all kinds of things happened.
Awesome.
So I think Conqueror was probably like in the 25th band or something.
Yeah. Were there anyone more significant than Conqueror?
I was in a sludge band called Corex.
Oh, I remember Corex.
Yeah.
I never got to see you guys, but I do remember that name, definitely.
Yeah, no, I think that for me was one of my favorite projects, like of my life, really. It was quite a blessing because I got to jam with my best friends. We were playing music that didn't really exist, not only in South Africa but in the world. We had like this crustier kind of sludge vibe. We had our influences, but we were just carving out our own thing. And people seemed to respond to it because it had this weird sort of emotional vibe behind it. Like people could pick up from our performances that it meant a lot to us.
Dude, but that one thing I've learned is you cannot lie to a crowd. Like you can't sell something you don't believe in.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to music, like the first thing, like people smell it like a shark smells blood if someone isn't enjoying themselves on a stage.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing to enjoy yourself on a stage is to actually be making the music you want to make. Instead of what you think like the scene wants or what it needs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's why when people tend to go to metal shows, like I'm from Bloemfontein, which is not a very big city, so there's not a very big metal scene, but there's a very passionate one. And obviously all of us also have friends that aren't metalheads. But whenever they came through to any of our shows, they would have the best time. And I think it's because you can tap into that energy of just people letting loose and actually being like fully engulfed in this passion for something.
No, exactly.
And I think that's something that's kind of, I don't want to say unique to the heavy side, but it's definitely very strong on the heavier side of music, which is why I love the scene so much. It's such a tight-knit like community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think the cool thing about Corex though is that we weren't trying to be anything really. It was a very, very personal thing. All our lyrics were very, very personal. About our struggles with life and just processing the world and like dabbling with the occult and stuff like that. Things that we thought were really cool. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like I said, people really identified with something, because we didn't try and like force our act or anything. It was just like everything just came from the heart. Like a lot of the time, I just played with my eyes closed and I was just like feeling it and just vibing with it.
That's the best. Yeah. And like, was it super technical at all, or were you just keeping it simple?
It wasn't technical, but in terms of the songwriting, we didn't really try and stick to any like formulaic structures. And what we were trying to do is just make this thing that spiraled and kept churning and turning into different directions. And so people would often ask, like, how do we even write songs? Like, how did we come across such weird structures, and how did we even think about that? But the thing is, it wasn't really planned. It was just something that happened. Like we just went with the flow and just moved it as we needed to, and it just happened to work, and it happened to exactly mirror what we were trying to portray, like emotionally.
Dude, it's
like
so satisfying when that works.
Yeah,
it's like I've only had that once really, when that was me and my brother. My brother's a very, very good drummer, and he wanted to just start a stupid rock and roll band. Like that was the words that he used. He was like, I don't want to think about this. I just want to make silly, energetic, upbeat rock and roll. And that was what both of us were listening. I was so influenced by him before I was 18, that I was just listening to whatever he would be listening to. So we were both like exactly on the same track of what we wanted to do. And I think that being brothers, it's when you just jam together, it's a lot easier as well. So we'd literally start with the riff and then jam it out from there and be like, I feel like this should go into a fast punky breakdown thing or something, and then it just happens, but the song never repeated one bit once. Everything just sort of flew, and like I still love those songs, actually, and I can't write something like that just on my own.
And it's such a blessing to have somebody so close to you that you can jam with at any given time and bounce ideas with.
Yeah, unfortunately we only played one show, and then our vocalist moved to Cape Town, and then shortly followed by my brother moving to Cape Town. So Spider-Man died.
Sorry, man.
Probably for the best though, with copyright and shit as well.
Well, at least we got you here.
Yeah. Oh, cool. And then, so tell me about Conquer It. How was that whole run?
That was a mega trip. So I guess I can start from the beginning. So I was part of the very first lineup, and then but for some or other reason I couldn't really continue. So then I stepped out for a while. And then the band went through all kinds of lineup changes and different sounds, and then eventually took a break. But then at some point, Richard and Toffee, they're the two brothers. Like Richard plays guitar, Toffee played drums, and they were looking to start a band again. And then I I think they decided to start Conqueror again, but with a whole different sound. And then Peter Jordan from Peasant was playing bass at the time, and I think he was actually a big driving force in helping the band to get started again. And so he played on the two newer EPs before he moved to Cape Town. And then I think I got a call from Richard saying, like, listen, like, Peter's moving down, do I want my old place back? So I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it. And then, so then I went to a practice, it was cool. And then we started working really, really hard on not a full length, it was basically an EP, but like 7 songs. For
a hardcore album.
Yeah. So we wanted to release that on Genet Records. We had a really good guy named Bruno from Belgium. He showed a lot of interest in us, and
Is Genet Records a Belgian label?
Yes.
Okay.
And because I think we wanted to play on Ypperfest, which is a massive hardcore fest in Belgium, and Bruno runs it. And luckily he took the chance on us. He had a lot of faith in us, and he released our record, and we were able to play the tour. We were able to play Ypperfest, and we formulated a tour around it. And that was crazy. Like, that was just non-stop madness.
What year was this?
2014.
Oh, I hate that.
So that was how I got back into Conqueror. And the thing is as well, like, we were super tight friends as well. Like, I'd known Richard for years and years, and Toffee as well. I'd been in a thrash band with him called Cataclysmic Abyss. And Russ, I mean, he's been a super solid guy in the tattoo industry, and, you know, obviously the vocalist from Conqueror since the beginning. So it was a real privilege to jam with my friends, and, you know, I learned a lot from them. We had some really good times.
No, dude, I think like the camaraderie that goes around being in a band in general is something you can't really take for granted at all. It's like half the experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the thing is that, like, being in a band is just work, essentially. Like, you get your hour on stage, which is like the best thing, and it's fun and everything's cool, but like everything in between that is just a mission.
We put in hard hours. Like, we practiced religiously, like, every Wednesday, but even when there were no shows, we were always practicing, always trying to be as tight as possible, you know, because that was something that was very important to us. And we were always tweaking our tone, always trying to get like the hardest, heaviest tone going. And, you know, so we worked really, really hard on that.
That's one thing I remember. Every time I saw a Conqueror show, it was, you would walk in, you'd watch a couple of bands and be like, oh, this is cool, like, everything's like it. And then as soon as Conqueror comes on, it just feels like this wall of fucking sound that just hits you in the face. And it's non-stop. It was like from the beginning to the end. The energy was there, the levels were there. It's no, like, I don't know, it's a hard thing to explain, but it's when people put actual time and effort into thinking of every single aspect of the show, it comes across as something like completely different, and it's the smallest little details that make those changes.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's always fun to hear someone else who obsesses over a guitar tone.
Yeah, dude, always.
That's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
You never really get it.
Yeah, there's always something that you want to tweak. Like, get a
Something
new
that
pedal,
could be
and that's perfect, but you want to tweak something again.
How's this Swollen Pickle been treating you?
I haven't been using it enough yet, but I've got the application ready. I know exactly what I'm going to do with it, and it's going to be pretty mental.
Okay. Yeah. I guess we could wrap it up then.
Awesome, man. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Awesome.
And thank you for the test run. First ever Get In It podcast. We'll see what happens.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Looking forward to checking it out.
Oh yeah.